US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin met face-to-face for the first time, holding a closed-door summit in Alaska focused on the conflict in Ukraine. The talks took place at the Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson in Anchorage. Speaking afterwards at a joint news conference, both leaders described the meeting as productive but admitted major differences remain. Putin said ending the fighting in Ukraine is in Russia's interest, describing Ukrainians as a brotherly nation and the conflict as a tragedy. He insisted that a lasting peace requires addressing what he called legitimate concerns of Russia and restoring a just balance of security in Europe and globally. He acknowledged relations between Moscow and Washington are at their lowest point since the Cold War and said it is time to move from confrontation to dialogue. He praised his direct communication with Trump and expressed hope for continued talks, possibly even in Moscow.
Как вы хорошо знаете, понимаете, одним из центральных вопросов стала ситуация вокруг Украины. Мы видим стремление администрации США и лично президента Трампа содействовать разрешению украинского конфликта. Его желание вникнуть в суть и понять его истоки. Я не раз говорил, что для России события на Украине связаны с фундаментальными угрозами нашей национальной безопасности. Более того, мы всегда считали и считаем украинский народ, я говорил об этом неоднократно, братским, как это ни странно прозвучит в сегодняшних условиях. У нас одни корни, и все происходящее для нас – это трагедия и тяжелая боль. Поэтому наша страна искренне заинтересована в том, чтобы положить этому конец. Важно также, что с Аляской связана значительная часть общей истории России. Но при этом мы убеждены, что чтобы украинское урегулирование носило устойчивый и долгосрочный характер, должны быть устранены все первопричины кризиса, о которых говорили неоднократно. Обеспечен учет всех законных озабоченностей России, восстановлен справедливый баланс в сфере безопасности в Европе и в мире в целом. Я согласен с президентом Трампом, он сегодня говорил об этом, что, безусловно, должна быть обеспечена и безопасность Украины. Конечно, мы готовы над этим работать. Хочется надеяться, что достигнутое нами понимание позволит приблизиться к той цели и откроет дорогу к миру на Украине. Мы рассчитываем, что в Киеве и европейских столицах воспримут все это в конструктивном ключе и не станут чинить никаких препятствий. Не будут предпринимать попыток за счет провокаций или закулисных интриг сорвать намечающийся прогресс. Вот я сейчас только что был в городе Магадане в России, там памятник стоит. Я хотел бы поблагодарить господина Трампа за совместную работу, за доброжелательный и доверительный тон беседы. Главное, что с обеих сторон был настрой на результат. Мы видим, что президент США имеет четкое представление о том, чего хочет добиться, искренне заботится о процветании своей страны и в то же время проявляет понимание наличия в России своих национальных интересов. Рассчитывает, что сегодняшние договоренности станут опорной точкой не только для решения украинской проблемы, но и положат начало восстановлению деловых, прагматичных отношений между Россией и США.
Trump said there were many points of agreement and a couple big ones still unresolved. He plans to brief NATO, Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky, and other officials about the discussions, stressing that any settlement will ultimately be for them to agree on.
I believe we had a very productive meeting. There were many points that we agreed on, most of them I would say, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite gotten there, but we've made some headway. So there's no deal until there's a deal. I will call up NATO in a little while. I will call up the various people that I think are appropriate, and I'll of course call up President Zelensky and tell him about today's meeting. It's ultimately up to them. They're going to have to agree with what Marco and Steve and some of the great people from the Trump administration who've come here, Scott and John Radcliffe, thank you very much. But we have some of our really great leaders. They've been doing a phenomenal job. We also have some tremendous Russian business representatives here, and I think everybody wants to deal with us. We've become the hottest country anywhere in the world in a very short period of time, and we look forward to that. We look forward to dealing. We're going to try and get this over with. We really made some great progress today. I've always had a fantastic relationship with President Putin, with Vladimir. We had many tough meetings, good meetings. We were interfered with by the Russia hoax. It made it a little bit tougher to deal with, but he understood it. I think he's probably seen things like that during the course of his career. He's seen it all, but we had to put up with the Russia hoax. He knew it was a hoax, and I knew it was a hoax, but what was done was very criminal. But it made it harder for us to deal as a country in terms of the business and all of the things that we'd like to have dealt with. But we'll have a good chance when this is over. So just to put it very quickly, I'm going to start making a few phone calls and tell them what happened. But we had an extremely productive meeting, and many points were agreed to. There are just a very few that are left. Some are not that significant. One is probably the most significant, but we have a very good chance of getting there. We didn't get there, but we have a very good chance of getting there. I would like to thank President Putin and his entire team, who I know in many cases, other than that, whose faces I get to see all the time in the newspapers. You're almost as famous as the boss, but especially this one right over here. But we had some good meetings over the years, right? Good, productive meetings over the years, and we hope to have that in the future. But let's do the most productive one right now. We're going to stop really 5, 6, 7,000, thousands of people a week from being killed, and President Putin wants to see that as much as I do. So, again, Mr. President, I'd like to thank you very much, and we'll speak to you very soon and probably see you again very soon. Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I'll get a little heat on that one, but I could see it possibly happening. Thank you very much, Vladimir. And thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Neither leader took questions from reporters. Both signaled that the Alaska summit was only a first step, with Trump noting that there's no deal until there's a deal.
So there's no deal until there's a deal. I will call up NATO in a little while. I will call up the various people that I think are appropriate, and I'll of course call up President Zelensky and tell him about today's meeting. It's ultimately up to them. They're going to have to agree with what Marco and Steve and some of the great people from the Trump administration who've come here, Scott and John Radcliffe. Thank you very much. And thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.